Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Andy, and welcome to this week's Team Kentucky Update. We've got a lot to do today. We've got some specific updates, and then we're going to sign a number of bills that we have bill sponsors as well as supporters here with us today. First, I want to talk about Tianeptine. Today, I signed an emergency regulation classifying all products containing Tianeptine, also known as gas station heroin, as a Schedule 1 controlled substance. This drug has been available online and in convenience stores and gas stations. It has no known medical use. This action stops the sale of this unregulated drug in Kentucky, which is known to produce opioid like effects. It has been linked to serious harm, overdoses, and death, according to the Food and Drug Administration. Cases described in medical journals, calls to poison control centers, and reports to the FDA suggest this drug has a significant potential for abuse. People with a history of opioid use disorder or dependence may be at particular risk, according to the FDA. So today, Kentucky has become a safer place. Until now, someone looking for a heroin like high could walk into certain places or buy this harmful product online. We're committed to protecting Kentuckians from this type of harm. And if someone is struggling with abuse, we want to be here to help. Resources for addiction and recovery include the Find Help Now KY website, the Kentucky Opioid Response Effort, or CORE, which also has a website, or you can call 1-833-8KY-HELP. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. here at the Capitol, I'll be hosting a news conference to talk more about the state's response to addiction and recovery, as well as sign some good pieces of legislation passed by this General Assembly that is helping us support these efforts. Second, and it seems like we have one of these updates just about every week, upcoming weather. The National Weather Service and Kentucky Emergency Management are tracking a heavy rain event expected to peak tomorrow evening and continue through Friday night. The National Weather Service is highly confident about potential flash flooding and minor to moderate river flooding. The most impacted areas are on the north side of Kentucky, as you can see on the map. That's especially the orange to yellow. And that's along the Ohio River and into southern Indiana. There's also the potential for strong and severe thunderstorms Friday afternoon and evening with damaging winds, large hail, and the potential for isolated tornadoes. As we recently learned, knowing the situation early and taking all the necessary precautions can have a major positive impact. We have been through so many weather events, whether it was the tornadoes in the West in December of 2021, the flooding in July of 2022 in the East, the polar plunge right around Christmas, this latest storm that came through with thunderstorms, tornadoes, and a windstorm behind it. What we have learned is when we know about these ahead of time, if we can get the word out, and I know our news stations and meteorologists are going to be doing that, we can encourage people to take steps to be home and be safe. We've lost far too many people to weather events. We don't want to lose one more. Here are a few things that we can do before going into tomorrow's storm. Number one, know your risk of flooding by going to floodsmart.gov. Second, have a plan for getting to higher ground quickly if the need arises. Third, have multiple ways to receive flash flood warnings from the National Weather Service app, NOAA Weather Radio, and by signing up for community alerts. Remember, never walk or drive through flooded roadways. What you ought to always remember is turn around, don't drown. Most of the time that people or cars are swept away, when they looked at it, they thought that it might be fine. Please don't take that risk. Next, a little economic development news in terms of really innovative programs to try to address our teacher shortage. Kentucky continues to break economic development and job creation records with historic investments like the Ford SK Blue Oval SK project in Hardin County and Envision AESC in Bowling Green. Earlier this month, we learned that last year we set the lowest annual unemployment rate in our history. But beyond recruiting new businesses to Kentucky and encouraging existing businesses to expand, we know we have to have an educated and skilled workforce to continue building on our economic development success. That's why we signed 5 bills yesterday, all of which attempt new strategies, good ideas out there from legislators, from the community on how we can continue to create the best workforce in America. But we know that our workforce efforts begin with our teachers and in our classrooms. Teacher recruitment and retention has been a top priority for this administration since day one. And today, I'm excited to highlight a trailblazing effort by the Nelson County Schools to tackle this critical workforce issue. In partnership with Western Kentucky University, the Nelson County Schools has received state and federal approval to launch a first of its kind apprenticeship program. This program will allow students to enroll in dual credit curriculum at Elizabethtown Community and Technical College and WKU, earning up to 59 hours of college credit while still in high school. Not only will they begin earning college credit while they're still in high school, they're also going to earn a paycheck. The paid youth apprenticeship will start during the student's junior or senior year of high school. Upon their high school graduation, these student apprentices will continue to be paid employees of the Nelson County Schools while enrolling at WKU to complete the remaining 61 hours they need to graduate. At the conclusion of their 2-year student teaching style experience at Nelson County Schools, students will attain their bachelor's degree and Kentucky teacher certification, completing a total of 6,000 hours of coursework and on-the-job training. This apprenticeship program provides a streamlined pathway for high school students to become classroom teachers. It'll serve as a national model to address the teacher shortage by growing the next generation of educators right in their very own school district. In addition to Nelson County, the Grayson County Schools also piloted an education technician apprenticeship 3 years ago with the intention of growing their own teachers. And now they've begun working with WKU to create the same pipeline as Nelson County, attaining credit for prior learning through their family and consumer science pathway. I want to congratulate Nelson County Schools and look forward to witnessing their success and that of Grayson County Schools and other districts in Kentucky and across the nation who adopt this same approach in their own districts. All right, some good news for some of our local governments. Today, I'm announcing I've approved more than $1 million in discretionary transportation funding to 6 counties that need the funding for road repairs. The counties receiving this new round of funding are Davis, Knott, Lyon, Robertson, Simpson, and Trimble counties. Our communities need safe, well-maintained local streets and roads in order to thrive. This funding I'm announcing today will make a positive difference in these communities. For example, Davis County was approved for $325,000 for badly needed resurfacing on a section of Griffith Station Road. That's a road that connects the Stanley area of West Davis County with an industrial area off Kentucky Route 331 near Owensboro. Industry has expanded dramatically in this area, but one section of the roadway has deteriorated. And the combined effects of industrial growth, increased consumer traffic, and poor drainage have left it in very poor shape. This funding will help Davis County replace a so-called chip and seal surface with new asphalt that can better handle the increased traffic. Likewise, Lyon County has been approved for a little over $35,000 towards the cost of repairing a local road. In its application, Lyon County said the road has not been paved in at least 20 years, and it needs a replacement of a broken culvert for businesses and Kentuckians who live nearby. Similar stories can be found in the other counties receiving dollars today. Local roads and streets are vitally important to Kentuckians that travel them every day to get to work, drive their kids to school, to get to church. In the end, this is about public safety, and we're glad to provide this support. All right, let's give an update on Eastern Kentucky flooding. To date, our sheltering program has 179 households in Eastern Kentucky that remain in 184 travel trailers. Now, the positive trend here is when people transition out of travel trailers, they found more stable housing. So since last week, 10 of our families that we were housing have found that more stable housing. 175 trailers are occupied at 9 commercial locations, while 9 are on private sites. We have 4 people still sheltering in 1 hotel. 16 people are sheltering at state parks. Again, that was down from our height of 360. Our parks have done a great job at taking care of our people. Uh, as of today, FEMA's approved more than $103.2 million in individual assistance. That's an increase of $460,000 over last week. Since March 15th, an additional 5 applicants have received the maximum grant of $37,900. That means 688 survivors have now received the maximum grant. That totals about $26 million. So continue to push for your claim. Do not give up. Contact one of our Mark multi-agency recovery centers and get help on your claim, because those that have worked with these centers are getting approved week after week after week. Normally, we see about $600,000 to $1 million new dollars going to Kentuckians who need it to rebuild their lives. These recovery centers have been extended until March 31st. I will say just about everybody we're working with right now are doing virtually, not in person, but they do call and work with these centers. After March 31st, we may go to a virtual model, but anybody who wants to come and sit down, work with someone in person, please look at the schedule that we have up right now. It rotates through counties, and please go in as soon as you can. If you need help, please call FEMA directly or go to our website, which can tell you how to get in touch with these groups. Team Eastern Kentucky Flood Relief Fund, over 41,500 donations, $13.2 million raised. To date, $440,000 has been paid in funeral expenses, because the first thing we do is grieve together. Over $4 million and $500 checks for survivors have gone out. That was a while ago to help people in need. Over $1.1 million has been committed to building new homes and home repair with our nonprofit partners. These are in areas that we found just a couple of plots outside of the floodplain, with the balance going to rebuild homes on the high ground communities that we have announced. I got to visit Letcher County this week to see a concrete pour for a father and his son whose home was destroyed actually, this is one of the homes. Go back. This is a home of a couple that I met the last time I was down there. They told me they were going to move in that Thursday. I actually got to walk through the house of this couple that had lost everything, and here they were back under roof. Really incredible, special folks. After getting a tour, which I appreciated, here we walked just a couple 100 yards down the road where we had this concrete pour for a father and son who right now are in our travel trailers. His son, Jason, got to actually press the button, make that concrete pour go. I never thought that a concrete pour would be a moving experience, but it was. I mean, you could see the hope in this family, and all the other families whose homes are being built in the area really came and rallied around Bill and Jason. So since the last time we've talked, we've increased the amount that we're partnering with Homes, which is this group, and Fahi, which works with them. But just to this effort now, over $1.1 million. But donations are very much needed. We've got a lot of homes we're going to have to rebuild. You can go to Team EKY floodrelieffund.ky.gov. As a reminder, we've announced 2 high ground communities, one in Knott County called Olive Branch, one in Perry County called Skyview. Right now, we have an RFP out for program management expertise. We want to make sure that we do this right, that we bring in experienced folks that have developed communities that can be thoughtful, that we can build the very best in Eastern Kentucky. That RFP closes tomorrow, March 24th at 3:30 p.m. All right, now we'll move on to some bill signings. Today, we're going to continue by taking action on several pieces of legislation recently passed by the General Assembly. First, we'll start by signing House Bill 180, sponsored by Representative Kim Moser, who's here with us today. This bill expands healthcare access by requiring health plans to cover biomarker testing recommended by a doctor. Biomarker testing is a way to track the progression of certain diseases, especially tumors. The testing looks for genes that can provide information about the possibility of future cancer diagnosis. The bill is another step forward in our mission to expand healthcare access. That includes on day 3, when I took a step to preserve health care for 100,000 Kentuckians. Just third day on the office. It includes the fact that we're building the first hospital in the West End of Louisville in 150 years right now. That's Norton and Goodwill. It includes the lung cancer screening program in the Kentucky Department for Public Health, the expansion of Medicaid covering a longer period for new moms and their babies, the capping of insulin in the last General Assembly to $30 per 30-day supply, and the relaunch of Connect, which offers health care coverage for everyone, especially our children. I believe healthcare is a basic human right, and this bill is going to help a lot of people. I'd invite Representative Moser to come on up and give comments, and then we've got a short video from a group that's going to be doing some of this work. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
And congratulations.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Governor Beshear. Thanks to all of the advocates who have helped us get this really important piece of legislation through. What House Bill 180 does is gets the right treatment at the right time to the right patient. And I know that we've all been touched by cancer here in Kentucky. We have the unfortunate ranking as #1 in lung cancer in the nation, and we seek to change that. We are moving in the right direction. As Governor Beshear noted, we passed the Lung Cancer Screening Act last year, and that is moving us into being able to detect cancers earlier. What this will do is require health insurance companies to cover biomarker testing. That is taking a look at a patient's genetic makeup and being able to see how they will respond to a certain medication. And so this allows us, and some of our healthcare providers, some of our doctors are with us today. Thank you so much for coming down and helping us work through this process. But this allows us to get targeted precision treatment to patients at the right time. This will save money. This will save lives. It will mitigate the long-term health effects that we see from cancer treatments that may or may not work, and this period of instability for patients will go away. Again, this is an exciting day for Kentucky, and I really thank all of you for your work in moving this forward. And thanks again to Governor Beshear.
Thank you. Thank you. Now let me
All
introduce
right.
the video, and then we'll sign it.
Sure. Yeah.
We also have a message from a pretty special person and company. Tony Remington is the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Gravity Diagnostics in Covington. If that sounds familiar to you, it's because this was one of the most important companies to helping us get through this COVID pandemic. When it hit, Kentucky wasn't a state that had one of those major labs like some of our Western states. And Gravity Diagnostics, at that time, a small, newer company, worked around the clock, day in and day out, contracted with us early, started out supporting our own lab, and then expanded at an incredible pace. We could not have done what we did. We could have not been the model for drive-through testing, which we were, pushed out all throughout the nation. Without this group, there are a lot of people alive today because of the work of Tony and Gravity Diagnostics.
Hello, my name is Tony Remington. I'm the CEO of Gravity Diagnostics, located in Covington, Kentucky. I'm really honored to be able to speak a little bit today on behalf of Bill 180. I first want to thank Governor Beshear and Representative Mosier for allowing me this opportunity. It's greatly appreciated, and I do want to recognize Representative Mosier for all the efforts she put in to get this bill through the legislature. Gravity Diagnostics is a diagnostic laboratory up in Covington, Kentucky. We started the company in 2016 with a real clear vision to provide information to people, healthcare information to people before they needed it or before it was too late. And we have a main emphasis on pharmacogenetics, which is looking at how you metabolize medication. Most people don't realize that over 50% of the population of the United States doesn't metabolize medication the way it was indicated. So the passing of this bill today is a huge step forward for the Commonwealth of Kentucky and for all the Kentuckians to get access to this testing with the appropriate medical necessity before you prescribe the drug, with the ultimate goal to get the drug and the dose right the first time. This is extremely important in the behavioral and mental health space, so we're really excited about where we can go forward, working together to improve healthcare outcomes across the Commonwealth. So again, I just want to thank Governor Beshear and Representative Mosier for allowing me this opportunity, and I look forward to working hard to implement this bill when the times is correct and the time is right. Thank you.
All right, we also have members of the American Cancer Society, the Cancer Action Network, the American Lung Association. Have we left anybody out?
Well, we have Gravity. Yeah,
But-
we have St. Elizabeth is represented here,
Great.
Dr. Gieske. And I know that a lot of our friends from Markey Cancer Center
Right.
have been really instrumental.
Great. If you all would like to join us, we will now sign House Bill 180 into law. Come on up. It's always good to double check.
Yes.
All right, let's look forward. All right, and here we go. You all will be able to remember this date, 3/23/2023. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all very
Thank you,
much.
sir. Appreciate it.
And then we got to turn. We can get it done. Jason?
Thank you, Governor.
All right. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is House Bill 146, sponsored by Representative Russell Weber, who could not be with us here today. That bill expands and improves unemployment insurance. The bill increases the coverage period from 12 weeks to 16 weeks. It also requires that people on unemployment insurance be notified of all of the training opportunities and financial aid resources that are available to them so they can get back on their feet. This bill comes on the heels of our great announcement that last year was our lowest annual unemployment rate ever. And last year we set, I think, the lowest monthly unemployment rate ever 4 separate times. My faith teaches me that we're called upon to lift our neighbors up when they're hurting, not kick them when they're down. Unemployment insurance is critical to making that happen. This bill will better support our families during the tough times and help get people back to work quicker and easier. That's good for our families and our economy. This bill does expand the number of weeks that were originally included in House Bill 4, a bill that I vetoed but was ultimately overridden by the General Assembly. Today, this is a step in the right direction. I would encourage continued review, as even with this bill, we're one of the only a handful of states who do not offer up to 26 weeks of unemployment to help our people. We don't want to be a state that provides less help to our people when they are in need as compared to others. With that said, this bill is a step in the right direction, and it's going to help us stay in compliance with the federal government. So I'm going to sign the bill. Save this for the sponsor. Next up is Senate Bill 30, sponsored by Senator Rick Girdler, which protects our consumers from predatory practices when it comes to automatic renewals and continuous service offers. That means when you sign up for that free trial, paid subscription, or membership, companies have to tell you more upfront about what they're charging you and when. And they also have to be more transparent about their cancellation policies and tell you when the terms and conditions change. This is a good consumer protection law. So many of these companies try to prey on people by getting them to sign up for a free trial. And if they don't do something by a certain time, it's a year or a year plus with a whole lot of charges that pile up afterwards. We're doing everything we can right now in a time of high inflation to keep as many dollars in the pockets of our people as possible. this is a very good bill that does that. I'd invite, do we have Senator Girdler here today? But we do have Susan Westrom, who has supported this legislation and sponsored it in the past. Representative, would you come say a couple words about it?
Well, it's wonderful to see that Kentucky is protecting our consumers who have unwittingly been charged for renewed subscriptions that they did not renew. This is a hard time for every family in our state, and to think that any industry would take advantage of people and never even be noticed, they're noticed. And I so appreciate this bill being passed. Thank you, Governor.
Join me for the sign.
I will.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
And we'll make sure that the senator gets one too.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Senate Bill 281, sponsored by Senator Jason Howe. This legislation is pretty amazing. It requires at least 50% of our state vehicle fleet to be hybrid or alternative fuel vehicles as we move into the future. What a great bill to have bipartisan support in this General Assembly at a time when we've become the electric vehicle battery production capital of the United States of America. What it ensures is that we are buying and using what we are building. With major investments like Ford and SK Innovation, Envision, AESC, and Ascend Elements, we're not just the EV battery production capital of the United States, we're growing the EV supply chain of the future from the ground up. It's pretty amazing to think right now in Glendale, we're building the world's largest battery plant. And then we're building its twin right next to it. So with so much EV production happening here in Kentucky, we want Kentuckians to be able to reap the benefits. We are on a mission to have a statewide fast charging EV network up around the state by 2025. And we have Senator Howe here today. I don't think he was able to make it, but on his behalf, first of all, thank you. And I will sign the bill. I'm smiling like there are other people here with me. For the center. All right, next up is House Bill 544, which is sponsored by Representative Rebecca Raymer. This bill ensures that the state is regulating the sale of Delta 8, which was the subject of a 2022 executive order that I put out. Delta 8 contains THC, but at a lower level than marijuana. Prior to the executive order, Delta 8 had been ruled legal, but was not regulated in any way across Kentucky. We did our best through an executive order, but we couldn't do many things in that you can via legislation. So this really good bill codifies the executive order into law, but it does a lot else, establishing a regulatory structure, a minimum age. It's going to protect a number of people out there. And I believe this structure can potentially be a great template for ultimate medical cannabis. We want Kentuckians to have access to the resources they need for relief, but they have to be able to do it safely. Representative, would you like to say a few words on this great bill?
Well, thank you, Governor Beshear, and I'm very happy to be here today to witness the signing of House Bill 544. With the legalization of hemp, there emerged products that many had not anticipated. Delta 8, 9, and 10 THC are all naturally occurring in hemp, but at low levels. And through this chemical processing, producers are able to extract higher levels of THC, enough so that they are intoxicating, and the process, if not done appropriately, can leave dangerous byproducts behind. This is a market that we can just no longer let go unchecked and unregulated. Up till now, it's been legal for minors to purchase these products, and we've heard from numerous school systems across the state about how prevalent and how problematic these products have become in the schools. So what House Bill 544 will do, like he said, is it's going to make it illegal for anybody under the age of 21 to purchase. It's going to require it to be behind the counter or in a secure cabinet. It's going to require labeling and batch testing to look for those dangerous residuals that could be left behind. I want to thank a great leadership team that was supportive of this bill, and my colleagues in the House and Senate for voting unanimously for it. And I thank Governor Beshear again for signing this important piece of legislation today.
This is your first bill.
It is.
All right.
Yes.
And everybody, this is Representative Raymer's very first bill passage. Let's make it law. That's the important one. It's the first one. All right. 544.
That's right.
Here we go. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. All right. Next, we're going to talk about House Joint Resolution 76, which deals with our state parks. It was sponsored by Representative Jason Petrie, who could not be here with us today. The bill provides some much needed funding, $40 million towards campground upgrades, $20 million towards utility upgrades, and $6 million towards broadband and Wi-Fi upgrades. We are still, however, working with the General Assembly because what we don't have right now is funding for deferred maintenance. Without that funding, which we hope to get by the end of the session, we will have some parks that will no longer be safe in our lodges for people to stay at. You look at the foundation issues at Jenny Wiley State Park. We have a major concern without dollars freed up in this session that we may not be able to house people in that lodge, which would cause a major economic issue and hit Floyd County and the surrounding communities. Barclay also needs some repairs very badly. So today we have Commissioner Russ Meyer to talk more, first of all, positive about this bill, but we also want to be very clear on what else really needs to be done in the last several days. And I will say we have had leadership in both chambers reach out and say what's still out there that we really need to make sure we get done. This is at the top of our list. Russ?
Thank you, Governor. Thank you all for being here with us today. Again, thank you, Governor Beshear, for your support of Kentucky State Parks. We appreciate all you do for us and your understanding of our needs. I'd also like to thank the General Assembly for approving the funding in support of upgrades towards campground utilities and Wi-Fi. Thank you to the communities that house and support our parks and provide us with employees and local resources. Most importantly, I'd like to thank the parks employees, from those in the central office to the workers at each individual state park. You all have been through the biblical level of challenges, from floods and tornadoes to the pandemic, while continuing to serve guests at a very high standard. This funding is a great start for critical improvements. Of course, we have other important needs on our list that we'd like to see addressed in the future to keep our parks competitive and to continue to draw tourists in high numbers. Kentucky State Parks has aging infrastructure and lodges that are now reaching 60 years old. Some notable parks and lodge systems that are in immediate repair are Jenny Wiley, as the governor noted, and Lake Barkley. Jenny Wiley, which housed our flood victims in Eastern Kentucky, as many of our parks in Western Kentucky during the tornadoes, our parks have become more than just state parks, as they've always been a huge part of the communities which they stand. They've become a shelter, a place where people, when they had nothing, they could come have a place to live, a warm meal. So we're happy to have those and proud of those responsibilities that we've taken on. Jenny Wiley currently, as the governor mentioned, does have structural and geotech issues in many of the areas of that lodge. In fact, the A wing of that lodge is currently shut down due to those issues. 12 rooms, big impact on that community, big impact on the tourist draw in that community, and revenues for Kentucky State Parks. Lake Barkley, which also, as I mentioned, housed our tornado victims in Western Kentucky, needs major structural repairs, a beautiful gym in Western Kentucky that we do have to reinvest in. And currently, we have 8 pools shut down within our state parks. Our pools not only serve as a revenue generator at those state parks, they serve as a community purpose for our local communities, which will be sorely missed this upcoming year if we don't step up and do something about them. So our parks do so much, as we've said. They provide employment for communities across the Commonwealth. They build tax revenue, and they contribute to Kentucky's cultural legacy. Thank you, Governor, for today's acknowledgement and for recognizing the importance of our parks. We pledge to continue the good work and to implement these projects promptly. Thank you. Yes, sir. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
Good work.
Yes, sir.
Now I got to figure out who's next. There we go.
There we go. Thank you.
Oh, you took a couple of my pages though. There you go.
There you go.
One more.
One more.
Taking them all.
Oh.
Finally, but an absolute critical one, and what a good one to end on. We have Senate Joint Resolution 58, sponsored by Senator Stephen West, which designates the route from Camp 11 Nelson in Jessamine County to the Kentucky-Ohio border at Mays Lick as the Brigadier General Charles Young Memorial Historical Corridor. We'll also be setting up signs along the corridor to promote attractions and historically significant locations about Brigadier General Charles Young. General Young, who until about a year ago was referred to as Colonel Young, was a U.S. Army officer born to enslaved parents in Mays Lick, Kentucky in 1864. He went on to serve as the first Black American attaché to a foreign country. At the he also spoke multiple languages, played multiple instruments. At the time of his retirement, he was a colonel at that time, the highest rank attained by an African American in the Army, but he was a hero whose actions merited so much more. Because of the times he lived in, the prejudice and the discrimination, he was not promoted to general, which he had more than earned. So in February 2020, I posthumously promoted Colonel Charles Young to the honorary rank of Brigadier General in our National Guard in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And in February of 2021, I sent a letter to President Biden encouraging him to promote Young in the U.S. Army. In November of that year, it happened. And in April 2022, a promotion ceremony was held at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, where Young had been a third Black graduate. It was the right thing to do. I was proud to do it. And now I'm proud to work with the General Assembly, the Transportation Cabinet, and the Tourism Cabinet to continue to honor Brigadier General Charles Young with this corridor so that everyone that passes through will know the name of Charles Young. So first, we're going to hear from the bill sponsor, Senator Stephen West. Then we're going to hear from Rodney Bennett from the Mason County Brigadier General Charles Young Cabin Committee. And then our Deputy Justice Cabinet Secretary, the person who first mentioned the need to get this done to me probably 6 years ago, Keith Jackson. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor, for this signing this resolution today. And I'm proud to be here today and proud that we got to this point where we could have this resolution. And I'd like to thank, first off, Senator Neal for including me in this effort. This was really a lot of his work in the Senate. Um, he brought me along because General Young resided in my district, Mason County, which is rich, not only rich in history, but rich in African American history. This is part of a joint effort with the state of Ohio. It's been a long time coming, but we're going to connect Jessamine County, Camp Nelson, with the Buffalo Soldier Monument in Ohio and make this corridor. And hopefully this will showcase some of the African American history in Kentucky and Ohio. And it just so happens, I know Mr. Meyer just left, but the corridor also intersects with the Bourbon Trail a little bit. So hopefully we'll get some tourism in both directions, African American history and bourbonism. But amazing person. General Young was an amazing person. And I'm proud to represent the district where he resided and where it all started. Thank you, Governor.
First of all, let me say thank you, Governor, for your quintessential leadership and certainly for supporting such a very important initiative. On behalf of so many that have worked to bring this collaboration together, we thank Senator Neal, of course, and we certainly thank our representative from that respective area. And on behalf of Mr. Charles Blanchard, the Coalition of Black Veterans Organization, Second Baptist Church in Mayslick, Kentucky, where the family of Brigadier General Charles Young attended while his family resided there. And of course, the Mason County Cabinet Committee, as well as the members of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. It's a great day to be alive, folks, when we have an opportunity to recognize this great legacy and the wonderful contributions that will occur from this corridor. This corridor would not only highlight the importance and significance of African American history, but African American history is American history. And so it will serve as a catalyst to bring forth those tourism, to bring forth opportunities within this area, to once again, as the governor said, to champion the wonderful work and the wonderful life that this gentleman led that shows us that teamwork truly makes the dream work. And so as we continue to look at this opportunity, let us ever be so mindful that in order to bring about change, we must affect change in a positive way. I believe this is a step in that direction. And certainly we are blessed and we thank the governor for his continued leadership.
Try not to mix up our notes.
Thank you.
All right. As a young boy growing up in Lexington, Kentucky, I would oftentimes meet my friends and cousins and neighbors in Charles Young Park to play basketball, to burn off energy and do the things that kids do. It was also where I learned that Charles Young represented an honorable and esteemed career as a Army officer. He was a representative of Black Americans that served our country, and that he was from Mayslick, Kentucky, right? And it also led me to follow one of my dreams. One of my dreams was to become a member of the United States Army, much like my dad and Colonel Young. And shortly after I became initially the Commissioner of Veterans Affairs, Governor Beshear and at the time J. Michael Brown, the Secretary of the Cabinet, pulled me to the side and said, "It's long overdue that the nation and the Commonwealth of Kentucky recognize Charles Young for his efforts and his work." And he agreed that the governor at that time agreed that his administration would be the one that advocated for Colonel Young to be posthumously promoted to Brigadier General. And we worked a plan to get him promoted in the Commonwealth of Kentucky to Brigadier General. And because of Governor Beshear's persistence, because of his belief, because of his tenacity, we were able to not only promote him to Brigadier General in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, but as he stated with his letter to President Biden, we were able to formally get him promoted to the rank of Brigadier General in the United States Army, which is beyond the dream that I had when he first put that task upon me, and I'm proud to be a part of that. So, as Black Americans, both men and women, we continue to break barriers. But Brigadier General Young was the reason why many of those barriers were broken. His efforts make us proud. His efforts continue to be recognized, and his legacy is one that deserves to be made in history. Uh, and now, because of Governor Beshear and what he fought for to honor one of a kind leader of true character, and thanks to the General Assembly, uh, uh, the General Assembly support, we officially have created the Charles Young Corridor. Um, and the significance of that also is that, you know, Charles Young's father uh, joined the Union Army at that time, and they were actually trained. The 5th and 6th Colored Regiment was trained at Camp Nelson. So when we have the Camp Nelson run beginning, and then we end in Majorlick, we have a lot of history. We have a lot of history of African Americans. My great grandfather was also trained at this same area, and so by naming this stretch of Kentucky Roadway, it ensures that Brigadier General Young will be recognized from now. From now on, I encourage all Kentuckians, some of who may be the next trailblazer, to visit, as the senator said, visit this area and make it not only historical but a significant part of Kentucky's history. I want to thank you, the family. I want to thank the governor, of course, and the General Assembly for making this dream come true. Thank you.
I now got to sign it though. Look up. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. All right, very briefly, this week's COVID incident rate is slightly lower than last week's. Over the past 4 weeks, COVID-19 case incidence has decreased. Since last week, the number of COVID-19 patients that are hospitalized in the ICU or on a ventilator has decreased. Um, we might now have less reporting than we did in the past. That's possible. But what we have reported to us is some of the lowest numbers of people hospitalized in the ICU or on a ventilator, and that's good news. All right, and this week's team, Kentucky All-Stars. Kentucky students work hard to excel in school and in life, something I know all too well as a dad of 2 public school kiddos. One of the most important things we can do for our kids is to recognize their hard work and their success. It's also really important that we give them experiences and opportunity to learn and grow within their education. A program that does all that and more is the Governor's Cup, an academic competition across Kentucky that includes students, coaches, teachers, volunteers, parents, and caregivers from our schools. On Monday, I was proud to celebrate those students and those that helped them along the way in the Governor's Cup. And the award ceremony was in Louisville. I was impressed by the students I met. Their dedication, teamwork, and commitment was really inspiring. So today, I'm proud to name them Team Kentucky All-Stars. My Aunt Mary Ann was on the board of this program all the way up until her passing about a year and a half ago. It was so important to her that Steve Beshear showed up all 8 years to give out these awards. And I'm honored to do it in her memory and because it's the right thing to do. And while this was her second year not being able to be there, we did welcome her first grandchild just the week before. And we're all going to wrap our arms around that family. And I'll be a part of helping to raise her grandson. Today, I'm really proud of these Governor's Cup kiddos. They have done, they're young adults, they're not kids. They have done amazing work. They are so smart. Our future is so bright. And I want to thank KAAC and all the work that they do. All right, we got a bunch of journalists today. There must be things going on. So we'll start with Olivia from the Courier-Journal. So we continue to work through the bills. 100 plus of them passed. And while I haven't thus far signed, vetoed, or let lapse Senate Bill 150, I think I've been clear on how I feel about it. I believe Senate Bill 150 tears away the freedom of parents to make important and difficult medical decisions for their kids. It tears away the freedom of parents to do what those parents believe is best for their kids, and instead has big government making those decisions for everyone, even if the parents disagree. The other thing I believe is that sadly it's going to cause an increase in teen suicide here in Kentucky. You look at the American Medical Association, the Trevor's Project, and all the data is very clear. Now, we should be in the business of preventing teen suicides and never contributing to it. And the last thing I'd say is I can't imagine ever treating a coworker like this General Assembly has treated Karen Berg. She lost her son for this very reason by suicide right before this session. And they pushed through this bill with her sobbing right there. That just shows a total lack of compassion, and it's really wrong. Tom.
Thank you, Governor. I'd like to ask you about the gas station heroin that you mentioned there. And are you going to, can you tell me how many other states have enacted similar regulations to this? And if you're going to seek federal regulation on it too to make it universal?
So we'll have to get you the number of states that have made the same steps towards what they call gas station heroin. Certainly, the FDA has been really clear on how dangerous it is. I think they were very public about it in their releases in this last month, and of significant concern with everything they say that it can cause. The FDA, that it was still just out there, being able to be purchased online or otherwise. And, this happens unfortunately when synthetics first came out. They were sold in gas stations, and their impacts on people can be really harmful. You look at the different synthetic heroines that would come out, the analogs that we called them, and we used to have to update our schedule to include those, and that used to take an act of the General Assembly. So what this is our ability, thanks to the General Assembly, to keep up with some of these really harmful drugs that come out, but have to be moved onto that schedule here in Kentucky. Carolina.
Governor, can you explain your decision on House Bill 538, the student discipline bill?
Yeah, the student discipline bill was a bill about trying to ensure that those that pose a significant and serious potential for harm to a school aren't immediately back in that school. We have a number of principals and administrators that have worked very hard on what that decision calculus is, because that's required under a bill that the administrators look at and have to ultimately believe the conduct reaches a certain level. So in the end, I think it's one bill that really comes down to school safety at a time when we've seen some really scary incidents across the country. Now, this is one that I believe, if carried out appropriately, can hopefully intervene before some of those things happen. Phil Pendleton.
Governor, do you know what you can do about Senate Bill 5 at this point?
Remind the numbers all come.
The parental materials.
yeah.
and things of that nature?
So Senate Bill 5 haven't reached, but it sets up a process for people to object to different material. It may be, for instance, in a school library. Most all school districts already have a process. So we'll be looking at it as the bill itself and in light of what it does or does not change. Mark.
At the beginning of the session, Senate and House leadership said it would be a slow session focused on cleaning up bills from 2022. And then suddenly they passed Senate Bill 150. Why do you think the push for this legislation is happening now? And where do you think the push for this legislation comes from this session?
Well, short sessions are supposed to be about cleanups, a couple pieces of legislation. Remember, we used to just have one session every other year. And the design of this was, sometimes you've got drafting errors, unforeseen consequences, some extra things that you have to budget for potentially. That's what this short session was supposed to be about. And that's not what this one was about. You look at the number of bills that were passed and the way that they were passed. I think a record number of shell bills, or what they call mules, that were brought into a committee hearing. Maybe they were one word and 140 pages are dropped. There's not even a timeout to read it or read part of it. And people are forced to vote on something they've never seen, they've never read, and somebody's just up there that wants to pass it, telling them what's inside of it. And then often rushed to the floor in a matter of hours, where other legislators that have been in hearings don't have a chance to read it. I hope every Kentuckian would agree with me that we shouldn't have a process where legislators vote on something they haven't read. And I hope all Kentuckians believe that they should have the time to read something and to show up and to be heard on it. Certainly the way that 150 was passed at the end excluded the public. An unannounced committee hearing announced right at the end, a big substitute that people didn't have a time to read, and then immediately to the floor right after that. Put any bill in that place. And that process is a lot more like the sewer bill from years ago than it should be. I can't tell you what's in people's hearts when they're passing something like this bill. What I can tell you is I believe all children are children of God. And this bill, according to the American Medical Association, according to Trevor's project, is going to result in increased teen suicide. We ought to be in the suicide prevention business, never doing something that causes it. And I'm a parent. I mean, tearing away the rights of a parent to make medical decisions, complicated medical decisions about their kids, and in many ways turning teachers and administrators into investigators that have to listen to how kids refer to themselves or others, and then potentially confront parents and others about it. This session, we could have been lifting people up. We could have been doing teacher pay when we're 44th in teacher pay. Unfortunately, it went a different direction. Okay, we got 3 on the line. We'll start with Tessa Duvall.
Hi, Governor. Thank you. I believe this may be building off the question that you were just asked, but we've seen following the legislative session, which has been very focused on LGBTQ issues, specifically around trans kids. We've seen that a drag show in Eastern Kentucky this weekend has been canceled. There are concerns around safety around a drag queen story time in Louisville. And on top of that, your education commissioner has also talked about this terrifying legislation, calling it sweeping and harmful. Just wondered if you had like a general reaction to, these events that are being canceled and the legislature's focus on LGBTQ issues.
Well, let me first just add one nuance. Jason Glass is the education commissioner, not my education commissioner. He is chosen by the Board of Education, which do an independent review. I was not consulted about who their finalists were or who they were going to hire. It was a process that the governor nor the General Assembly were involved in. Now, I get because it's a campaign season that people are going to try to use terms like yours or theirs. He is the education commissioner. Listen, violence and threats are never justified against people. The use of violence to try to push your views on to others is wrong, and it's wrong in any and every circumstance. Calling people or writing to them saying that you are going to cause them harm because they're different than you. Listen, my faith tells me that that's absolutely wrong. Now, I believe in a loving God. I believe in a Savior who told us that our number one mission was to love our God as ourselves and love our neighbors, every single one of them, no ifs, ands, or buts. So these threats are wrong. People need to stop it. In many instances, they are illegal as well. You are not allowed to threaten the life of another human being. That is against the law, and there is no excuse. Melissa Patrick, Kentucky Health News.
Hi, Governor. So, Senate bill, your regulation to expand Medicaid benefits for dental, hearing, and vision deficient. I'm curious, is there anything else you can do to maintain these benefits? What can be done?
Yes, I believe a new regulation will allow for the continuation of vision, dental, and hearing benefits. The expansion of those benefits, the funding coming from the federal government, is an executive branch function, but even at the hearing, I believe it was one of the legislators said it looks like you'll need a new regulation. This is a no-brainer, right? This is what gets people back to work. Now, there's a study that talks about over 100 million work hours lost due to emergency dental procedures that if you have coverage, you avoid. There's studies out there about the number of people that can't go to work because we don't cover getting them a pair of glasses. And then think about safety on the job site. You know, a ton of Americans, I was looking at a statistic earlier, it's enormous, suffer from hearing loss. And to be able to get to the job and to do it correctly, you need to have that type of coverage. Again, if we care about workforce, right? Let's take the basic steps to get more people healthy enough to work. Josh James.
Hi, Governor. Thank you. See if I can squeeze in a couple quick questions. This may not be huge on your radar at this point, but have you had much contact with bankers in Kentucky regarding the security of banking systems in the state, given the shakiness of the industry right now? And if so, how comfortable are you with the assurances you're hearing? And by the way, on that weather event, could you put it in context as to how serious it could be? Should communities expect outages, anything like the storms and windstorm we just saw?
So let me do that in reverse order. Can we put the slides back up? The weather event that's coming Thursday night and Friday is projected to be serious, primarily in terms of potential flooding, but there is the potential for high winds and for tornadoes. There's still a lot of work that has been done to temporarily get power up across the Commonwealth. It could result in outages. How widespread they are, you never know until you are in the midst of them. I think we will see, in many ways, two parts of this, Thursday night being a big one, and then we'll be tracking and providing updates on what Friday can be too. Do remember that we are projecting the potential for significant hail. So bring your cars inside, bring your pets inside, just plan and be careful. But certainly we are not projecting, because when you look at how much of it's hitting the state, that thunderstorm, tornado, windstorm hit the whole state. The whole state. It actually, thankfully, was not as bad in the east as it was everywhere else. This one is only really hitting part of our state in the highest level of severity. The bankers that I've talked to in Kentucky believe, and I believe, that their banks are solid and solvent. The biggest threat to our banking industry, though, is panic. Is people running to a bank not believing that it is solid and that it is solvent. And if there are those types of runs, what happens is the banks then have to focus just on individual accounts, which again, up to $250,000 are already covered by the FDIC. But if there is panic, it may leave less capital for these banks to make loans, and those are homes and cars and economic development and the rest. So what's really important as Kentuckians is we know we don't have a bank like the Silicon Valley Bank in Kentucky. The banks that we have operate very differently, most all of which are regulated by the federal government or the state. And I have confidence in our banks. People should have confidence in their banks, and nobody should panic, because people panicking, I believe, is the only threat that our banks here in Kentucky face, and the only way that we could harm our own deposits. So this one is going to be okay. It's going to reverberate in the stock market for a while, but if you have your money in a Kentucky bank, it should be safe. Thank you all very much.